This video is brought to you by CleanMyMac X. It's really important to love where you work. For me, my home office is at the centre of everything I create. In a way, it's an extension of who I am, what I like, what motivates me, and most importantly, what inspires me to create. I've recently left behind most of my freelance work so I can pursue content creation on a more full-time basis, so I'm spending more time in here now more than ever, and despite this space never feeling like it's truly done, I think now is a great time to give you a complete office tour, so let's jump right into it. Let's start with the desk. I've had this for a while now and it's kind of been all I could hope for a desk. This is built mainly from IKEA parts, so for the left leg I have the Alex drawer unit, and on the right I have a trestle, and sitting on top I have the Carby kitchen countertop, which is technically for kitchens, not for desks, but it works really well. Also, over the 3 or 4 years or so I've had it, there's been no sagging in the middle either, which is great. Sitting on top of the Carby countertop is this desk shelf from Grove Made, and this really completes the overall look. It matches up really well with the Carby top, and it also gives me a little shelf on the right to store things. I'll often pop my iPad Air in here or slide my phone on there face down while I'm working. Sitting on top of that shelf is the Mac Studio. This is my new computer and it's the M1 Max variant with 32GB of RAM, 32 GPU cores, and it's got a terabyte of storage too. So it is slightly upgraded from the base model, but nothing too crazy. I've got a few videos on this, so I'll link them in the description below, but it's been pretty good so far. There's been some issues for sure, and it hasn't been a totally smooth transition over from my custom Windows PC, but I am getting more and more used to it, and it's definitely going to be my desktop computer moving forward. Speaking of that custom PC, to the right of the Mac Studio I have my custom Mini ITX build, which I'm currently moving over from, but I'm still making use of it right now for some little bits and bobs. It's a Ryzen 5 800X build with 32GB of RAM, a bunch of SSD storage, and a GTX 1070 Ti graphics card. For now it's staying on my desk, but soon I'll repurpose it as the Mac Studio becomes my main PC. On the other side of the shelf I have this really wonderful iPad stand from ChargeM Pro that's become a major part of my setup recently. This thing is awesome. It's magnetic, so my iPad just attaches to it nice and easily. It rotates so you can either have it portrait or landscape, and it just looks fantastic too. Ever since Apple came out of Universal Control, I've been using it seamlessly with the same keyboard and mouse as my Mac Studio as this kind of smart second screen. It's been crazy useful for Zoom calls, transferring files between my Mac and iPad, and just having a separate space for mobile focused apps, which I often spend a lot of time in as a content creator. I've always been a single monitor kind of person, so getting this as an added feature to the iPad was really awesome. I did make an entire video on how I'm using it, so I'll link that in the description below as well. Moving back to the desk itself though, I have this relatively small and cheap desk mat from a quick Amazon search, which is good, and I went for this because I like the size more than anything. Sitting on there I have the NuFi Air 75 wireless mechanical keyboard. This is a low profile keyboard and it really suits the space nicely. I really like the accent keys in different colours and the typing experience is really great. It does have RGB, but honestly I leave it off most of the time because it drains the battery life so quickly. It's never really worth having it on at all, unless I'm working at night. Battery life aside though, it's a great keyboard and I don't see me changing it anytime soon. For a mouse, I'm using the classic and well-loved Logitech MX Master 3 in grey. There's not much I can say about this mouse that hasn't already been said. It's fantastic, the battery lasts for ages, and it's comfortable after hours of use. I do use speakers on my desk, and I've got these Ruark Audio MR1 Mark IIs, and I've been using them for a few years now, and they were a little expensive, but they sound absolutely amazing, and the grey colourway fits right into the setup nicely. I do have some AirPod Pros I use for headphones if I have to, but generally speaking, I much prefer having speakers on my desk. All of this revolves around my single 4K monitor. This is the Dell U2720Q, which I think is possibly one of the few monitors that feels like a viable option to the Mac Studio display, at least for my workflows. This monitor has treated me really well since I've had it. It's 4K, the colours are decent enough for video work, and the bezel-less 27-inch screen feels like the perfect size. One of the main draws for me though was the really good I/O. It's got USB-C with power pass-through, which I use for the Mac Studio, a DisplayPort which I use for the custom PC, and an HDMI which I use for my Nintendo Switch setup. There's also a USB-C and A port on the left hand side which is all linked up through, so I can plug anything into here. I'll often plug my iPad in there when the battery gets low. It's really ideal. Speaking of that Nintendo Switch setup though, that brings me to the shelving on the left hand side of my desk. This too is from IKEA and each shelf holds something I like to grab quickly and often. Let's start with the Switch setup on the first shelf though, because I know I get loads of questions about this. The dock I'm using is a super minimal one from a company called GullyKit. It's a third-party dock which works exactly the same as the Nintendo one, and I honestly prefer the look of it. The Switch just sitting there on display looks really awesome. And I know a while back that third-party docks used to be a big no-no because it caused some consoles to brick, which of course is awful, but they seem to have figured it out since. This GullyKit one has been fine with my Switch for about a year now, and any fears of it bricking have left my mind for sure, but I guess use it at your own risk. The Switch is all linked through HDMI into my monitor, and as soon as I turn it on, my monitor will intelligently flick to the Nintendo Switch setup, so I can start playing games straight away. I love doing this when videos are rendering or if I've got 20 minutes to burn before a call or something like that. It's a really fantastic little setup and I'm a big fan of it. The second shelf houses my most used camera equipment, so that's mainly my go-to lenses, and I always keep one of my old film cameras on here too. And finally, on the top shelf I have a selection of productivity, design and art books. I don't have loads of these, but these ones I do have all been really helpful in crafting what I do here on the channel, or for just staying productive while working for yourself. My biggest recommendation of these is probably Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. This really helped me produce more things, and it's full of amazing advice if you're a creative of any kind. Highly recommended. To the left of my desk setup is a recent purchase that I'm low-key obsessed with. This is a locker from a company called Must Have Made. Not only does it look awesome, but it now serves as a place for me to store all of my video gear in this nice rugged looking container, and the pastel blue colour doesn't make it feel out of place in my office at all. Before taking a look at the rest of the office space, I wanted to talk about the sponsor of this video, CleanMyMac X. CleanMyMac X is over 12 years old now, and it's a really well trusted program that sifts through all the data your Mac builds up over the years and finds all the useless files you no longer need to literally clean your Mac up and to save you a bunch of hard drive space while doing it. One of the best features is Smart Scan, which examines your system log files and user cache that is no longer needed. It will do a quick malware scan too to make sure there's nothing malicious hanging around on your Mac, and finish up with a speed check to make sure your Mac is running as squeaky clean as it can be. It's fully updated for Mac OS Monterey 2, which is ideal. Personally, I've been using the Space Lens feature a lot, which gives you an overview of what files are taking up most of your space. I actually used this to find out that Final Cut had been making these huge render files which I just didn't need. There's optimization tools too, which help increase your Mac's performance by looking at what your Mac is running in the background. I've actually got a few here which can go by the looks of it. And amongst other things, there's a powerful malware removal tool which looks for cryptocurrency miners, viruses, adware, and allows you to remove them instantly. It's all wrapped up in a beautiful design that just won a Red Dot Award too, so if you want to check it out, follow the link in the description below, and of course a huge thank you goes out to the folks at CleanMyMac X. Okay, let's talk about cable management for a minute, because I know a lot of you out there are interested in how to make your own office space neater, and good cable management is one of the easiest and probably cheapest things you can do to make it look amazing. I'm personally using some self-adhesive white trunking for my setup. This has holes down the side of it so I can put in a cable at any point and then route it out to any point as well. And I've got this stuck under my desk, and there's a small amount on the wall too which hides all the cabling from my Nintendo Switch setup. There's probably more I could do here to make it even more neat, but for me, I think this looks great. I'm also really keen on adding as much art and decoration to my space as well, and that starts with this wonderful pegboard from IKEA. I mainly use this as a place to hang art or prints that I can't find frames for. However, there is a second, more pragmatic use for the board, and it's my entire camera charging station. Using some sticky Velcro, I've attached all of my camera chargers onto here, and then when I come off a shoot or if I just need to get my batteries topped up, I pop them all onto here and they will all charge up. It's a really neat way of keeping all of my chargers in one place, and the Velcro allows me to take them on and off if I need to take them with me. Just to the left of the pegboard is this skateboard deck I picked up from a company here in the UK called Route 1. As far as I know, it wasn't limited edition, but they don't seem to be selling it anymore, which is a shame. Oh, and I've got this Keep On pennant from Oxford Pennant 2. I think these are so cool, and I'm constantly looking on their website at buying more, even though I really don't need them. Jumping to the other side of the office, which you don't really see on camera that much, I have a much bigger wall of art, which I'm really happy with, and a nice hook to hang my camera bag so I have easy access to it when I'm heading out on a shoot. This side of the office was supposed to be a more kind of chill out area, hence the sofa, but honestly I very rarely use this side of the office, let alone sit on the sofa, so I am in the slow process of rethinking this side of the room to turn it into something a bit more useful. I do have lots of other little things like fake plants and little boxes and Nintendo amiibos and things that I really like, which just help add a little bit of personality to the office space too. Another question I get a lot is how do you get those clean pastel backgrounds that we see all the time in your kind of videos and on your Instagram feed? And there's no secret here, I just use huge bits of card from GF Smith and then I lay them out on my desk and I take the photo. And usually I have to get rid of the iPad and the Mac Studio and Pocky, and I have to get rid of this desk shelf as well, so I've got a bit more space to do it, and that's generally how I end up doing them. What I will say is they're never that perfect. My implementation of it is actually quite scrappy, but I always find if you can't make it perfect, then make that part of it. So that's why you'll very rarely see anything that's like completely clean from me. It'll always be a bit broken in some ways, and I think that always looks that bit nicer. I also want to shout out to this IKEA trolley. I used to use this a lot more, but now I use it as a kind of makeshift dolly for shooting vertical content. I stick my camera on this tripod, flip it portrait, and then I film everything I need to just by moving this around. And it's just a really easy way of doing it, which is funny. So that just about rounds up my office space for the first half of 2022 at least. I really do think if you have the chance to make a beautiful space to work in, then you really should. You'll see your output really flourish and you'll just feel excited to get to work every day. And honestly, that's a really rare feeling to have. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below and I will try my best to get back to you. Pop a like on the way out too, that would be massive, and I will see you all in the next one.